if you're a writer for a team, I think it's a little tougher, to be honest with you. But for me, when I was at ESPN and my title was NFL research coordinator, my title was not Detroit Lions research coordinator or Chicago Bears research coordinator. I was responsible for, let me think. The first year I was at ESPN there wasn't even 32 teams. So,
is that when they had 28?
The 89, no. 89, we still did not have, we had 28, right? And we did not have Jacksonville or Carolina. That wasn't until 1995, which, by the way, was one of the most fun things I ever did, was work the expansion draft in New York City with a gentleman named Bill Walsh.
Oh, yeah, he's a little bit notable.
1989, yeah. If I don't recall from listening to the PFG Vibe, that's the year you started going to the Hall of Fame, correct?
That is correct. And thank you for the very incredible shameless plug for the PFG Vibecast. 1989 started a lot of things for me. It was the first year I went to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It was the first year I started freelancing for ESPN, even though I never made it up to Bristol at that time. I was in my third year at College and Pro Football News Weekly. And amazingly, that's 30 years ago now. Time flies when you're not working for a living.
Okay, well, Dave has some questions we're going to throw at you guys, and these are based off of the last two PFG Vibecasts you guys have had, so it should be right in your wheelhouse of what you guys have been talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and let Dave take over, and you guys can answer these questions. Go ahead, Dave.
So I'm going to come right off with a toughie. It's got to be like one of my favorite conversations in all of history of football. If you had to start a franchise and you had to pick a number one overall pick, and you had to pick, it's a defense player, Lawrence Taylor or Reggie White, who are you drafting and why?
Julie, you want to go first or you want me to go first?
Go for it.
Reggie White. That's not, and listen, Lawrence Taylor was
amazing.
There was nothing like Lawrence Taylor.
Oh,
okay?
I have to agree with you. Yes.
I'm a believer of the trenches, and here's the thing. I want to make this clear. Lawrence was a defensive end in college. Came in and was perfect fit in the 3-4 defense. Okay, that's not the saying he couldn't play defensive end in the 4-3 as well. I mean, he was that kind of gifted. He played with a rage and intensity, and certainly wasn't a one-dimensional player. He was a guy who could drop back downfield, so he could do a lot. But Reggie you could put him at end, you could put him at tackle, you could put him at nose tackle. He was stunning to watch. I go back with Reggie White. The year was 1985, and he was a member of the Memphis Showboats in the USFL, and basically played an entire season with the Memphis Showboats, and then later that year played significant time with the Philadelphia Eagles the same year. Okay, I mean, right off the top of my head, I want to say he played about 30 football games that year.
Wow.
So,
I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Reggie also was one of the big free agent tickets in 1993 when he went to Green Bay. He's one of, when it comes to the Packers have never been big in free agency and have never spent lucrative money, with the exception of probably 3 players: Reggie White, Charles Woodson, and Julius Peppers. That's it since free agency started. And all of them paid off for them, I think, very, very well. They've always trusted their draft system. But listen, Lawrence Taylor, let me ask you this. Reggie White and Lawrence Taylor in a 3-4 defense, okay? I think some teams would have folded, okay? Can we have our bye week this week? Just scary stuff. But Reggie, who unfortunately left us far too soon,
Yes.
And I remember being at the Hall of Fame ceremonies when his wife spoke of him. Yeah, it was just. But to me, it would be Reggie White, and I mean, Lawrence Taylor 1A. I mean, I don't even know if 1A does. How about Reggie Taylor?
Reggie Taylor.
How about Lawrence?
I like that.
Okay.
Oh, God, that's scary to merge those two. With his power and Lawrence's lower body, good God.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't have to remind you guys that, when Larry Allen was a rookie, he tossed him aside in the game on Thanksgiving. And, of course, Larry Allen went he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame as well, 11-time Pro Bowler, I believe. Moved into guard, but, I think he played tackle that day. And, for a long time, that's what Larry Allen was known for. Then all of a sudden, Larry Allen got bigger and stronger and started doing that to some other guys. But Reggie was, you think about the great defensive tackles or defensive end or just the great defensive linemen. It's Mean Joe Green, Bob Lilly, Erlen Olsen. It's a cavalcade of stars. But it's for me, if I was building, I would get Reggie White number 1, and then I would trade up to number 2 to get Lawrence Taylor. So,
yeah.
And by the way, just remember, Lawrence Taylor was the 2nd overall pick in the 1981 draft. You guys remember who number 1 was?
I do not. That was before my time.
George Rogers.
There's a name drop. I've heard of him, I just couldn't remember who it was.
And had a pretty good career. I mean, George Rogers had a pretty good career, wound up with a Super Bowl team with the Redskins and so on. But I mean, he was a pretty good back. I mean, that 81 was. But Lawrence obviously doing what. Listen, we would not have sacks as an individual statistic if it wasn't for the impact of Lawrence Taylor as a rookie. As you know from listening to our show last week, we had John Turney on. Who has done all the sack research, going back before they made sacks official. In 1981, Lawrence Taylor threw quarterbacks around, left and right. The league always kept sacks as a team record, but never individually. And then, coincidence, 1982, all of a sudden they started keeping them individually.
So, Julia, who would you take, Lawrence Taylor or Reggie White?
I'll definitely stick with Reggie White. I mean, of course, the Minister of Defense, if I'm not mistaken, that's what he was called, because he was ordained as well. So, he had, tons of respect, and he's so highly decorated. How can you not pass up on someone like that?
You guys are melting my heart.
I like both of those answers. That's I couldn't ask for anything more than that.
Actually, transitioning to what Russell brought up, who do you think would have more sacks if they were counted, Dave Robinson or Deacon Jones?
Oh, I still think it's Deacon Jones. Okay, and let's also keep something else in mind. We wouldn't have the word sack without Deacon Jones. He's the one who coined the phrase.
I remember reading that. That's why I had to ask, because I know watching game film of him, and it's ridiculous how much he just threw offensive linemen to the side or got on the guard and just shucked them like a husk on a corn cob. And it was just amazing to see. And I'm like, God, he would have been flagged almost every play in the NFL today with the rules we have.
Well, I think when I and Deacon Jones was a little before my time. I caught the tail end of his career, with other teams and so on. But he was obviously. But when you watch him on NFL films and you watch, here's the word that comes in mind to me when it comes to Deacon Jones. He had disdain for the quarterback that he played against. He was very physical. You're right. In this day and age, it would be a different beast when it comes to Deacon Jones and so on. But I mean, he was a weapon and played obviously on some very talented front fours, the fearsome foursome of the Los Angeles Rams Again, another Hall of Famer, a personality. I'm dating myself here. When he used to at least once or twice appeared on the Odd Couple TV show with
really. That's an interesting fact.
Yeah. So I mean, he definitely had a personality. He was, obviously you saw him interviewed and so on. He's a guy who's very, very missing being not being at the Hall of Fame anymore and so on. The honor was very, very important to him, and but yeah, I think it's Deacon Jones, and that, again, to take away from a Hall of Famer, you certainly don't want to do that and so on. But I think Dave Roberts was a different type of player. Deacon Jones was a different kind of human being.
Do you think he belonged in the 80s to 90s rather than the 70s?
No, not necessarily. Listen, depending on, listen, football was different. It was more run-oriented than it going back to the day, and so there's no question about that. But listen, in this day and age, there's also, teams try to get deep on the offensive and defensive lines, keep guys fresh because of the amount of pass plays and so on. So I don't know what that would have done. I mean, it's always hard to compare errors because you get into, the size of players and so on. I just look at him when I see Deacon Jones and the desire, and again, I use the word disdain, the desire he had to get in that backfield. I don't know what player in what era and what kind of football was going to deny him.
Yeah, it was just pure anger. It just anger, but ire. It's like pure just ire, straight from the heart. Just to if he thinks he can be pushed around, it's not going to happen.
The 50s, the 60s, the 70s, to a degree, the 80s. The one thing you had in those eras that you don't really have in the game these days are intimidators. Okay, from the Jack Lamberts to the Jack Tatum's, from different positions and so on. I mean, think about it in this day and age. Name an intimidator. Football. Again, that's not a knock. The game is different. It's more spread out. It's more pass-oriented. Defense is still very, very important. Getting to the quarterback can be very, very important. Okay? But think about it. The rules now and the safety precautions almost don't allow you to have a quote-unquote intimidator. Intimidator doesn't mean, a borderline dirty player or anything like that. I'm talking about a guy who is a physical, hard hitter who kind of makes you change your game plan.
Khalil Mack, I hate to say it, but it's a guy you have to do that for.
Well, there's the potential there. Okay, there's no doubt about that. Okay, Aaron Donald to a degree, but I don't know. Listen, they're very productive players, but I don't know. Again, intimidation is as much demeanor as anything else. Okay, these guys spend a lot of time getting sacks and making big plays like that. But do they intimidate? I guess that's what the point I'm trying to make.
Intimidate? I'll actually bring up Julie Voigt's own Quentin Nelson. As a guard, I'm sorry, he is one of the biggest intimidators to me when I've seen him last year. When you're out there in freezing cold games, and he's out there topless, wearing nothing but just shorts and sneakers, and I'm like, 10 degrees, dude. And then everyone's like, okay, this guy can take this. He can be able to handle us during the game. And then on the field, too. He's just nasty. He finishes blocks with guys 6 feet under the ground.
Well, I had went over to the town hall for the Colts, and Andrew Luck was actually talking about this, and he literally said that Quentin Nelson is a mean, nasty guy. And, he looked over to Eric Ebron, and he even looked at Darius Leonard. He's like, right, he's pretty mean, right? And they're all shaking their heads. So, I guess it depends. We'll just have to see, what more can he do?